and the ancestors are looking out for us. God Hayes is exposing them, man.
Okay, you see that chair right there? See how big it is?
Yeah.
Now look at the poke chair under it. Scroll down, look at the poke chair under
Never have it been made so clear.
Young TV. Young.
We running the game right now.
Young TV.
Time to take over.
Young
We the hottest in the game. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you just not tuned in.
TV.
Share, like on your Instagram, Facebook.
Young TV.
If you tuned in, we broadcasting live from 2030, baby.
Young TV. Young
Taking over the game, baby. Oh yeah.
Young TV.
Hit that like.
Young TV.
Get them likes up in the air, you heard me?
Young TV.
Ride by. Hotel Islam.
Young TV.
Assalamu alaikum. Flown letter. Peace.
Young
Be unto you.
TV.
Hit that like.
So they gonna let me get a good signal. Like they let me get a good signal. Hey, Rob out, y'all. Peace. Can y'all hear me loud and clear? Somebody drop in the chat, man. Look, we brought you here tonight to give you more of the breakdown. We got a whole bunch of videos, though, clips we're gonna run that's gonna go along with this video. But for the most part, we want to talk to you about the government shutdown and the alien agenda, right? Now, a lot of the alien interaction they've been interacting with humans for millions of years, but the new wave of interaction started about around 1945 after they dropped those nuclear bombs on Japan. And when they dropped these nuclear bombs on Japan, it sent out a signal. They got different terms for this signal, but it's dealing with electromagnetic frequency and light waves. And but extraterrestrials from this frequency, it actually traveled faster than light. And some certain groups of extraterrestrials who lived in distant galaxies picked up this signature read, and then it caused them to want to come and investigate Earth, right? Some of the species have always been on Earth, even before humans, and they just don't bother humans. They got this guft. They got this guft in between them where they don't interact, like they stay out of humans, frequency or energy field, and it's due to it's galactical rules. It's galactical rules. That's part of it. But but the 1945 bombing really changed everything. And like I say, some of the groups that were even living here started to get concerned because they got bases under the ocean and under certain mountains deep underground. And so these extraterrestrials, it's like if your children found the matches, like a baby playing with a match or a baby playing with a gun. So humans were considered like babies to these guys. There's several different groups. We're gonna break down some of these groups on this tape. But these humans I mean, what some groups of extraterrestrials looked at humans like babies or children, and now they got a whole little gun. So let's take this gun. Let's get this gun from this baby, right? And that's the gun is the nuclear weapons, right? And that leads up to maybe 9 years after that or so. They actually had contact before that. They was actually knew about the extraterrestrial contact in the early 1900s when they stormed in this cave during the Mexican Wars, and they came in contact with the Greys, right? Now there's several different species of Greys. There's about 70 different species of Greys by now. It's probably more now due to crossbreeding and other species crossbreeding with them, like the reptilians and certain groups of insect extraterrestrials, right? And really, some of the Greys can be classified as insects because they, we'll get into that. But like it's a group of extraterrestrials who might look like Greys, but they're not Greys. They call the Rizqiyians. They are really ant beings. We already did a tape on them too, right? And they was here. They've been here, and people was asking me, "Oh, how did you get the information about the Rizqiyan ant race?" That information is recorded by the Dogon and Hopi people. Mainly, the Hopi people is the people that talk about these Rizqiyan people or these advanced ant species, and they resemble Greys too, right? So Greys are most likely from the future. It depends on how you look at time, right? They actually not from the future, but you can. It depends on how you look at time. The Grey race was created about around maybe like 30 or maybe 50, between 50 and 30 billion years ago on Mars. At the time, Mars looked similar to Earth. Actually, Mars was one of the moons to a larger planet, which was Earth a while back. Billions of years ago. It was called Tiamat, and it was maybe about 4 times bigger than what it is now, bigger than where Earth is now. And it had 11 moons. And like Venus was one of those moons. Mercury was one of those moons. Mars was one of those moons. And a lot of these planets, some of them were engineered. Like Mercury, Mars. It was only 4 planets when this particular the original group came to the solar system. It was only 4 huge planets. Saturn, it was Saturn, Tiamat, another planet called Meldick, which got destroyed by Nibiru and knocked out of his orbit. But it was only 4 planets, and these other planets, some of them were engineered later, and then as the moons or satellites is what some people refer to them as, to Tiamat. And that's that part. And we want to get into some of these clips, and the clips is going to lead me into more what I'm trying to get at here. So let's roll some of these clips. Hey, Rob, hit that like if you're new to the channel. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. You're on TV, man.
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us? What could be more alien to the universal aspirations of our peoples than war and the threat of war?
Okay, so you heard Ronald Reagan right there, right? In the 1980s, he came out, and Ronald Reagan definitely knew about the extraterrestrial connection. He actually is a descendant of these Alderbarian hybrid reptilians who came here in 1952 and then they start jump with Ashtar Command, with the help of Ashtar Command, they start jumping time and try to start altering our timeline. And like I say, I showed y'all a book. If you would go back and look at that, the book collection that I put out yesterday, I showed you where Doc was talking about that in the Millennial Book Part 1, right? Now, so another thing I want to say about what Nixon was saying, he said they walk amongst us, right? The reason why it's about maybe about 4 or 5 human races that the government know about. And a lot of reasons they don't want to tell you about these people is because at one point they say y'all probably wouldn't believe them anyway if they told you, hey, it's some like extraterrestrials is walking amongst us. They live in amongst us. They look like us. They can come amongst us and walk, and you wouldn't even be able to tell the difference, right? Unless you are a light worker and you can read the signatures, right? So there, that key point that some of these groups look human, and they don't like to. They always like to tell you about the Nartics, right? It's 2 Nartic groups. One is the Alderbarians, and then the other one is Ashtar Command, who are pretty much part of the same conglomerate. And then is the Orion group, which is the Najarus, is what we call them, right? Our family, the ones who are responsible for building the pyramids, and we got clips on that too. So they don't want to tell you about. It's also the tall whites. The tall whites really are a hybrid race from a deal with the Greys. Well, actually, it wasn't no deal. The Greys actually took that up on themselves. The bad ones, right? The marker beans to, well, not the marker beans. And these Greys, the Greys that did the tall white Greys really were, I can't say they were bad, but it depends on what perspective. They were neutral type beings, right? Because these tall whites, they are neutral zoids, but they wanted to try to retain some of our emotional energy, meaning that some of these reptilian and for you Bible guys, we can use the word angel, right? Because aliens is an alien or extraterrestrial is just another word for angel, right? Beings who come from what they call in heaven or outer space, right? We can get into that too, what space or what heaven really is. There's really no such thing as space, but that's another subject, right? But because space is always filled with tachyon energy. But like I said, I wanted to make that clear that it's certain groups of humanoid extraterrestrials that they in contact with, that the government been in contact with. So let's go to this next clip.
I would like to make the prediction right now. I absolutely believe this with every fiber of my being, that within the next couple of months to 90 days, there's going to be no more of these near misses. Near misses are already considered a hostile action in a military kind of milieu. It already is. But what we're going to have is we're going to have direct military action from these UAPs, these Tic Tacs, which are of all shapes and sizes, by the way. And we will have a huge hostile action against an entire battleship or many airliners as well. Airliners. And we're going to see huge consequences from that because they have to do it at this point because people are losing interest in the UAP situation. They're seeing fraud artists like Elizondo and others that work with him as well, and people are just not impressed that much by these Tic Tacs and this 19.
I'll tell you, so that's dealing around with the 3-eye atlas thing. And pretty much what he's talking about is most groups of aliens won't attack us, right? If we get attacked and they say it's aliens, it's most likely going to be an inside job of some fake alien type of agenda dealing with the global elites and the deep state, these shadowy government guys, right? These shadowy government guys got technology that they recovered or reverse engineered off of some of the crafts that they recovered. And they got this technology and they've been holding it from the public. So if they were to put it out and then you not knowing that, hey, it's government this reverse engineered technology, right? You would think, oh well, it must be aliens, and then so we should blame the aliens. And the idea is to attack, use this technology, because the deep state or the dark shadowy government is getting chased off the planet, and so they want to pull their last fear monger tactic to try to get us to make deals with them, force us into deals, because they got to force us into deals. They can't do nothing unless we make a contract with them, because they'll be breaking galactic law. No, Earth is under the Protected Planet Treaty until 2030. And then they got a 13-year grace period, will give us to 2043. So any extraterrestrial race that attack Earth within that time frame, they automatically gonna get eliminated. So that's a suicide mission. So not even the reptilians would try to attempt that type of attack to attack Earth, right? So it would have to be humans or hybrid reptilians or some other type of species posing as humans and do an inside job and attack, do an attack on us, and then get us to blame the aliens, right? So that's one of the agendas that was really one of their last agendas on the table for these shadowy guys, to try to fake this alien invasion. We already talked about that on the 3-Eye Atlas tape. We got the 3-Eye Atlas tape on AI, because people's like, well, you ain't putting it out on 3-Eye Atlas. I'm like, man, they must be late. You got to scroll down about a month or two ago. We already put 2-3 tapes out on it already, right? So that's one of the plans. And like I said, I did a tape on the Alderbarians. The Alderbarians came in 1952 with Ashtar command, and then when they saw what we was doing, they went back and jumped time to try to offset our timeline. That's why we got set back. That's why a lot of our they telling you that it's about this alien technology. A lot of this technology that they about to get ready to try to roll out on us, we already had as the Tarzian Empire, the Tartarian Empire, right? So let's go to this next one.
When the agreement was reached, the alien society laid some requirements on our government. They said we would have to provide a suitable habitat for the beings that they would send here from their society. And they gave us some very specific instructions for it. The laboratory facility had to have 2 nozzles in the shower, one for water and one for enzymes. And they would bring enzymes from their home planet to be put in a tank to be dispensed through the second nozzle. The enzymes were lathed over the body first and rubbed in. They stand there for a time, and then they rinse off with water, and the water and the enzymes are collected at the bottom, and the enzymes are filtered out, put back in the tank, and the water is flushed away. That was one of the requirements. Another was a food requirement. They don't eat alimentation such as ours. They brought alimentation from their home planet that we had to learn to culture here in Area 51 to provide a food source for their diet. Our government was charged with the responsibility to produce the food from their products continually for alimentation for the guest visitors. Now those guest visitors arrived in an operational vehicle that they still keep operation of. They can go and come. They fly in and out of their habitat facility at will. They're not restrained in any way. But my engineer friend was one of the several engineers that were assigned to work with the extraterrestrials to try to bridge the gap between their technology and ours. And in 20 years of research trying to do so, they never succeeded in closing the gap. We were never able to convert that technology to ours. And the reason given by the aliens themselves is because in order to operate their equipment, they have to impart a certain mental input. And we have never learned to impart the input that's necessary to make the machines work. So their equipment responds to mind, to thought, and we have never learned to impart the proper thought to make any of it work. There is no way that we can bridge the gap with a wire from this point to that point, from theirs to ours, and make it work. There's no such wire. And that's interesting because those aliens I think one is very ill now and about to die, but they've been there since the 60s. What, that's for 35 years. And we've been trying to solve the problem all that time and haven't succeeded. That's one entity that I know about. There were two of them involved, two aliens involved, one craft. There may be others that I don't know about. That one I am quite sure is legitimate and real. The last I heard is one of those alien beings. We don't know whether they're males or females either because they don't have any sex organs. They have not reproduced out there. They do go and come as they please, and sometimes they're seen by others outside or even in Area 51. And they're not detained. But it's an interesting experiment because there may be other programs going on that are not as beneficent.
He's talking about it was two projects that was going on. It's more projects that I'm gonna break down all the projects. I got a lot of them already broke down. One of them was called Project Aquarius. That was when they was working with J-Rod, who was from Zados. They refer to these beings as the Ebens, this one particular group. That group, the Ebens, are from Zados, but the main group, it's about, like I say, it's about 70 different great alien races. But like I say, your government might know about 7 or 8 of them, right? They probably didn't visit Earth or some kind of way they didn't took pictures or met with them or recovered their crafts, right? From a crash, or shot them down, right? Some of because they got the government, since Ronald Reagan made that statement. Actually, they had it before that. They had it during when Eisenhower had the meeting with the at Dorsey Air Force Base. I mean, it was at Edwards. When he had the meeting at Edwards, 1954, they actually had direct energy weapons then to shoot these crafts down, right? And they had them. They had drone technology at Edwards Air Force Base in 1954. They had the UPA technology. They were using it in 1954 with lasers attached to it, and they used that to shoot some of their crafts down during that time, right? During the 60s and 70s. And then when Ronald Reagan came along, they said, "Oh, we're gonna start putting some of these laser weapons on the satellites," right? And then it was under the disguise of missile defense, but it really was to protect themselves from these off-world beings, right? And so Project Aquarius was where when they recovered injured, one of them were injured, I think, and 2 were dead or so. But the one that survived, they took him, and like he said, he was working with the government since the 60s. And I think they nicknamed him J-Rod. And Dan Bigley, it was a dude named Dan Bushick, I think is how you say his last name. I might be saying his last name wrong, but let me play a clip from him real quick. He talks about one of his encounters with these beings.
The gentleman with which I was associated was approximately 3.5 feet tall. He had a dark brown appearance, very ruddy appearance to his skin. He was in a highly pressurized clean sphere. 3.5 feet, large head in comparison to torso, large bulbous black eyes. The whites of the eyes had been selected out, so it looked like a large pupil, basically. When you look into his eyes, you feel like you're going to fall into his eyes forever. And I think that probably had something to do with the telepathic nature of his mental structure. He was hunched over most of the time, could not support himself fully, given muscular atrophy, and that had to do with the peripheral neuropathy under which he was suffering. He was unclothed, which bothered him. He wanted to wear clothing and was refused in every turn. Called himself captive, and justifiably so. His facial features were grotesque in comparison to what he showed me what normal would be. Nose was recessed, an extremely small mouth, a hard palate, no teeth.
Do you have any idea what his chronological age was?
622. They excrete in a manner that we would excrete. Their external genitalia are different than ours. The females have somewhat like vulva, but they have a clasper situation. The male has a male clasper, the female claspers. And if it looks like a disc with rectangular solids that are rotated into position for clasping at the inguinal region. They do have internal fertilization.
Now, this was something you read because you didn't see a female, did you?
No, this is something he showed me of his wife. Everything that he showed me when this was the incident. When he projected it into me, it felt like I was there. He was extremely depressed. If we were to term him human, I'm not a psychologist, but I think he would be termed as clinically depressed.
Okay.
He wept, but he didn't weep outside. He wept when he was with me.
Well, could you estimate what his level of intellect was?
Smarter than me. He was smarter than me by a long range.
Did he have a wide range of knowledge?
The mathematics that he showed me blew my mind.
Was that right?
He showed me concurrently not only the equations for the rule of nines, but he also did so diagrammatically, and he did so with three-dimensional, like a VRML system, where I was watching cubes come together. Highly evolved, highly intellectual, highly repressed emotionally. When I was with him, I felt great happiness to be with him, but I could feel his great sadness, not only because of what he wanted to become, what he knew he was by being present with us, but where he was and how he was being treated. He was not part of the group that has to be catered to involving the T9 treaty that was just signed. He wanted to help. He was willing. When I went in, for God's sakes, I took well over, nearly 300 individualized aspiration samples from his neurological system. He would hold his arm out for me to take them. There was no pain medication. And whenever I would fire the introduction system to remove the sample, it was an aspirative avulsion system, he would cry, and then he would just stand there and look at me.
I was going to say, I'm going to go back and edit it out. Project Housing. Before you came on, I'm going to tell you about Project Housing, right? So Project Housing was done at S2. You probably heard of S4, which they still do not today, right? About S4, they still say, oh, there's no such thing, right? But it was another base called S2. This right here base was where they was performing Project Housing. Project Housing was to create, and I'm gonna play a tape on that too, to create a facility where they can house extraterrestrials, beings from other worlds, right? And it was they got on record. I heard some people say, oh, between 70, but I done heard as most close to over 150 races that they have logged, whether it's be from crashes, etc. Right? And some of the they have even drew pictures, got these sketches, detailed sketches to come in and draw pictures of these guys. And then years later, when they came out with Hollywood, right? Because you got to keep in mind that the Hollywood is a CIA operation, and it really goes back before the CIA to a group of beings called the Druids. People that probably never heard of the Druids, but the Druids are those who could draw it down, right? But these some of these characters that these people draw and put them in the movies, the alien movies that you see in Hollywood, a lot of those characters that you see are really how they look based on the sketches that were given from Majestic 12 and the CIA over to these certain Hollywood producers who are really CIA assets, right? Because it was a lot of the directors in Hollywood are CIA assets, especially during when it first opened up until probably like the late 90s, and probably still to this day, right? It's probably still to this day, I believe, that a lot of them were these directors of CIA optics, and they get a lot of that, especially the ones that do like the Star Wars and these alien movies, right? And Star Trek and all this, right? So I wanted to tell you about that, about Project Housing. Now, he made mention that it was that this group that J-Rod was a part of wasn't a part of the group who made a deal with the Greys. I mean, with these with the government, right? In 1954 at Edwards Air Force Base. The people who made the group that made a deal with the government they're one of the most, I can't say they're most dangerous Gray group, but they in the top 3 of the most dangerous Greys to even and deal with, because they tricky. They call them marker beams, and the marker beams are from the Orion galaxy, which is about 1,344 light years away. It might be more because the galaxy is constantly expanding, so it might be more than that. But if you, it's about around 1,300 and some light years away or so. And these beings, called the Orion Crusaders, they really work on behalf of the Dragon reptilians, because during the war, during the Galactic War, about 60 kingdoms of the Gray Kingdoms were captured. And then these reptilians, in order to utilize the Greys, they actually started creating their own species, their hybrid species, and in some cases even mixing their own DNA with the Greys to make them more aggressive. But the marker beings are one of the older groups who came out of the old experiment on Mars, because the Greys were created on Mars. That's why if you notice in their real names that they call themselves, on the English names that they give, the word Mars is somewhere in the name, like Ramadian or marker beings, right? So the word Mars is always there. So these marker beings are bad guys. They are the ones that made the deal to start adopting the humans with the government, right, in exchange for technology. And I think the reason why the government made a deal with the marker beings is because they were like, hey, so if we say no, they're gonna adopt them anyway. But if we say yeah, well, at least we get something out of the deal. At least we get some out of the deal. So I think that's why Eisenhower and his team or whatever who was advising him, I don't think Majestic 12 was Majestic 12. I think he got probably created. I think 1947 they was putting it together. But whoever I know, one of the persons that were advising Eisenhower was an extraterrestrial named Val Thor from Venus. He was part of the Alderbarian refugee group, who were the agreeable ones who tried to break out from the reptilians, right? But I think the reason why Eisenhower and them made the deal with these particular species, because like, okay, they gonna adopt. If we say no, that they gonna probably still adopt humans anyway. But if we say yeah, at least we get some kind of technology out the deal, right? Now, some things about these marker beams. Now, he talks about this particular species that he was dealing with and interacting with, which they termed as the Ebens, right? The ones from Zados. I think Zados is about 39 or so. light years away, right? 39 point something light years away. These people, these grays, the marker beings, they don't have reproduction organs like the ones that he was dealing with, or they don't reproduce the same way. The reptilians got them on a leash, right? These particular ones that made the deal with the government. And so in order to make more copies, more clones of their species, they use cow intestines, because a lot of their, if you look at their biological anatomy, you can see that they got some similarities to a cow. These particular these ones I'm talking about, the marker bean ones. And so that's why a lot of the you see a lot of mutilated cattle, right? People coming out, farmers coming out, finding their cattle mutilated with surgical precision that there's pretty much no human type surgical instruments that can make these type of incisions. And then so it's been these farmers write it off as some weird or some kind of weird anomaly, but it's really these marker bean grays who adopt their cows and use the intestines, and they actually eat the cows too. They actually eat the rest of the parts. They use the intestines as to clone, right? And then they eat the rest of the parts by blending them up in the blender. And so that's that one particular species. Another thing about the marker beans is that, and it's a lot of the species of grays are like this. A lot of them don't have exit, like an anal to remove a feces or genitals to be able to use the bathroom like humans. They actually have these advanced, well, I don't know if to call them advanced, but because they really suffering. Most of the species, that's why they come in here to try to get the human DNA so they can upgrade this, fix their it's really radiation syndrome is what this particular species suffer from, the one that Dan was working with, right, with J-Rod. But they sweat to release like waste or whatever from their body, because they really don't consume like solid foods. They consume liquid. These particular ones I'm talking about, the marker beans, they consume liquid foods, right? That's why they blend it up like a juice in a juicer, right? Like a juicer or a blender type thing. And so they actually absorb the food through their skin, these particular ones, these marker beans, and they actually release the waste from what they absorb. Like say, if you eat something, then you go to the bathroom, right? They're going to the bathroom would be a sweat gland. That's how they remove this particular stuff from their body, right? So I want to make that clear. And they are the same ones that I told y'all a long time ago that they adopt humans. They are partially and a lot of the human body parts and stuff that they find in these crafts and things of these marker beans. Some of them are body parts collected for their overlords, which is the reptilians, who actually eat the ones that actually eat physical flesh, human flesh, right? The ones that are human are shade shifters, right? But what they do is they adopt these humans. They adopt the ones they experiment on and the ones that don't, because some people don't return. Really, they want to tell you, not like some people don't return; they get eaten. Some else happen to them, right? And they blend them up in a blender. They put like this. It's not like a blender. It's like some kind of solution. They put them in like this. They sedate them, and then they put them in this solution where it melts their body down into like a slimy, stanky. It stank, man. It smells like dead bodies, pretty much like dead bodies and rotten organs. This sludge looking solution, and then they pump it down these tubes underground into their this like huge swimming pool area, and then these grays, when they feed, they will go down and walk through this pool walk around in this all this solution I'm telling you about that's got enzymes mixed in it with the human body parts and all this stuff blended all up in there, and then they will absorb it through their skin. And that's dealing with the marker beings. Now, these particular marker beings don't have emotions like the ones that Dan was just telling you about, the EBT, the Ebens from Zados. Some of the original grays, like they inherited some of the original grays, which really you could classify as humans in the future, right? The ones that's say they humans from the future, that's how you can kind of like say, okay, they might be telling some kind of truth to this. It's because most gray species don't have emotions. A lot of extraterrestrial species don't have emotions. A lot of the ones we've been I can't say they don't have emotions, but not as so far as the level of humans, of how emotional humans can get. A lot of extraterrestrial don't get that emotional, right? Especially the warrior clans, right? They train to not to do that, but the marker beings, they're not emotional at all. They'll chop your head off, eat you, whatever, and they won't even make a facial expression really about it. So that's the marker beings, the bad guys. And we'll take questions in a little bit. Though. I got so many videos to go over, but it's crazy, right? So I talked about that. Now he said that these particular grays, the Ebens, had internal fertilization. So the Ramadians, and like I said, 70 different species, or maybe it's more now because due to mixing and crossbreeding, a whole bunch of different galactic treaties being made, and people like that, a lot of species make treaties by interbreeding, right? You can study that by studying the Anunnaki doctrine. When they came here, they interbred with the Dragonian reptilians that were here, and that gave you Inky, right? Inky's mother was part of these Dragons who had already interbred with another group of humans who were the Hindus, who came from Procon. But that's another topic, right? But these one particular group that he talking about is more, and it's other groups too. That's like the Ramadians, who are the original ones that these EBT or these Ebens come out of. They have a thing where they can. You ever seen cone heads where they put this ring on their head, right? And they make love using this ring and use mind to mind links, electricity, right? To procreate, right? Where these particular ones that Dan is talking about have similar features, and that's a new upgrade, because they all, none of the grades could reproduce. They all were made as a clone race, right? So these particular ones that he talking about, they have a little bit of human emotion, because he said that he was crying, he was sad when he was doing all this stuff to him. And then he had this internal fertilization based on what he said that he had a wife, that J-Rod had a wife. And actually J-Rod, and I think it was 3 other guys who were his assistants, they came here actually on a research, and they actually crashed due to a magnetic storm. And that's how their craft got recovered, right? So what else I want to tell you about before we go to the next clip? Another thing, what I want to tell you about the grays. Okay, that's that. I think that's all I want to tell you right now about that. Till we go, let's go to this next video real quick.
Why so much attention to planet Earth? Why us? We're this little speck. We're this little speck on the outskirts of the galaxy. Just this little solar system. Well, galactic and intergalactic travel has existed in our universe for 4.4 billion years. Now I'm dealing with linear time, because that's the only way I know how to put it. Many of the extraterrestrial groups that were leaving from their respective star systems, when they would pass through our sector of our galaxy, they would always stop here on Earth. Why? It's beautiful. It's got an abundance of water, which is very rare in our galaxy. It has vegetation and life forms unlike most other places. And not only that, it was far enough away that they could literally do anything they wanted, and nobody would say anything. It was like a retreat. And they would fly through here, stay 50 years, which is, if you live a lifespan of several thousand years, it's just a weekend. You know, even though it's 50 years to us, it's almost a lifetime. And they would just play God. Genetically alter this, genetically alter that. They would pick up other life forms as they were exploring. They would drop them off and see if they would evolve here, if they could exist. They tinkered. They did all kinds of things. Now, ETs don't value gold and silver or diamonds. They're not into that. What they're into are genetics. That's their valuables, life forms. And we're now moving in that direction ourselves, our scientists. Okay. Well, what's happened is, according to the Andromedans, us, Terrans, Earth human beings, the physical forms that we now have ourselves, is a direct result of the genetic manipulation of at least 22 different races, extraterrestrial races, who tinkered with us. This is why we have approximately 22 different body types on the planet. Now, when I'm talking about body types, different physical and genetic and chemical structural makeups on the planet. There are 22. This is why we have so many different races that have different physical features. Now, because of this manipulation, what's happened is that we, as a planetary race, have become this, like Heinz 57. We have inside of us the genetic as well as racial memories of at least 22 different extraterrestrial races. Which means that we can physically bond or give birth or create with almost any specific species out there, with exception of the greys. Well, actually, to some degree, we can with the greys, and the insectoid races. We can't mate with them. But we can with almost any other form, including reptilian. Just a few alterations in our DNA, and it's done. We're the only ones. Now, this is also the only planet in our galaxy where you have so many different races together. Now, what's happened, and I'll give the example of Andromeda. The Andromedans are a human race, but they have been so pure, so clean in their DNA, in their genetic melding with the same race, that they are now starting to see signs of genetic breakup. In other words, the line is starting to show some genetic weakness. The Pleiadians will experience this in 1 million years. They will start to see it. The Greys are already experiencing it. And there are other races as well, primarily human races, where this is happening, where the genetic material is starting to break down because of so much interbreeding within the same race, the same family. Follow me so far? There's only one race that can add this genetic boost, the new genetic material, to help them, and it's us. But they can't use our DNA, they can't use our physical structures because of our consciousness. We vibrate at such a low level. They can't use it. Plus, they just can't come down here and steal it like the Greys did, because it's a violation of free will, which is the #1 law. Do not violate free will. Number 2, do not interfere or intervene with an evolving race unless you are asked. Of course, we have been. We have been for the last 5,000 years. Majorly manipulated as a planetary race. So, this is why there's so much attention here. Now, the negatives, the negative forces, and I include the world government in this, are doing everything they can to keep us down, to keep us negative, to keep us divided, warring with each other, all of that. They're doing an excellent job. The benevolent ones, however, want us to come together as a race. They want us to move into an unconditional love or an unconditional responsibility space. But they have to do it in such a way that we think it's our idea, because they can't violate our free will. Does everybody follow that so far? So it's a hell of a situation. It's really complicated. I wish I could say it's black and white, and there it is, but it isn't. It's a very complicated thing. Now, because of the gray intervention, and because our government, basically the secret government, sold us out, it has forced all of us to evolve now, instead of on a planetary level, on an individual level. Where each one of us has to go inside, and we have to look at ourselves and say, who the hell am I? What am I doing with my life? Is this really what I want to do? Am I really happy with all this?
All right, so that was Alex Collier, who is a contactee for the Andromedans beings, and it's different Andromedans. He's in contact in Pacific with the blue skinned ones. We could get into that. I might do a tape on. I know I've got an AI coming out on it. I think I got a couple tapes out on that one already. I actually got the whole video. You want to watch that whole video? It's in the different extraterrestrial playlists, right? You can watch the whole videos of it, right? So I want to break down some of the stuff that he said. He said that a lot of groups stop by Earth, right? They visit Earth. And it's several reasons that happens. One is because Earth is rich in mineral wealths. Some of the stuff that you probably don't even think about, like low as chlorine, limestone. So a lot of the extraterrestrials use limestone in their breathing machines aboard their ships to filter out the because it's gas in space, right? And a lot of these extraterrestrial races who are not operating as far as in a certain type of avatar that they created, they don't have to breathe a certain thing, right? A lot of extraterrestrials breathe just like you breathe, right? And so they got to have gas aboard their ship, or some kind of most extraterrestrials breathe some type of gas, and so they got to have this gas aboard their ship. And one of the devices that cleans the air utilizes limestone, and Earth has a lot of limestone. It's a whole bunch. It's a lot. You can find a lot of elements on other planets as well that's being mined. So a lot of extraterrestrials, they come here for the mineral wealth, which is, if you read up on the Anunnaki story, they came in Pacific for gold, right? Another thing. Also dealing with the Anunnaki story, Alelu, who is Anu's brother, he actually came here before Anu. And when he came, the reason why they stopped by Earth, they was headed to Neptune, him and his little bunch, right? They had left Cyrus. They were headed to Neptune, and they stopped by Earth to refuel, right? Because they were nomos, and their crabs ran off of hydrogen fusion, and so they needed water. They used this water and transferred it to fuel, right? So as Alelu stopped here to refuel, and they were pulling the water particles into the craft, and it was separating the hydrogen, from the oxygen. They seen gold particles in the water, and that's what made Alelu send a signal back to Nibiru, alerting the Anunnakis and Anu, who was the high master, or the most high of that bunch, to start to come to Earth to try to look for get more gold to take back to their planet, Rizq. Zachariah Stitchin, he don't go into Rizq. He talk about that Nibiru was suffering from this thing, but I don't think Zachariah Stitcher understood that Nibiru was an actual ship, actual mothership, right? A huge mothership that's 9 times bigger than Earth, right? But they lived on a planet called Riz in the Lyran galaxy. They refer to it as as one section of it as Elium, the galaxy on high, and the 19th galaxy, right? And they say, to make a long story short, that whole movies we got whole AI movies on that subject, called Risk, and all. Most of y'all are already familiar with that information. They chopping me out like they messing with my feed. Okay, so yeah, so they needed gold. So like I said, I'm making a point to say this, that different extraterrestrials came here for minerals. Another thing that's highly is worth more than the minerals is DNA. So during Project Blue Rock, because Alex Collier mentions 22 races, actually 3. The Anunnakis were the 23rd race that sealed the DNA structure, right, to create the 40s. And they took two chromosomes from each race, and so that they would give you 46 chromosomes, right? And so the Greys are one of those races. The Reptilians are one of those races. All humans have reptilian DNA in them. And matter of fact, the reptilian is one of your main DNAs, because this is an aquarium. Pretty much Earth is an aquarium, or a water planet that you live on. It's a nomos planet, right? So Earth it's like a DNA bank due to Project Blue Rock. And so you got all these different species who can come here and get DNA from to upgrade their species, because we are, whether you want to recognize it or not, the human are upgraded species from all these extraterrestrial races. That's one reason why one of the sects of Anunnakis and other species like the Dragon Reptilians, they don't want us to go past where we at, because they utilizing us as, whether it be a food source, energy source, whatever case may be. They won't be able to use us once we go to a certain level no more, or once we get on their level, right? It's kind of like a chicken that you raise for food being able to talk. Right now, he's been able to talk, say, "Hey, man, I don't want to be eaten," etc. Right? It's like that type of thing. So Earth is a DNA, and I'm actually gonna do a tape. Breaking down the 23 different races in the human DNA. And like I say, but one of them is the reptilians, and one of them is the plant race. One of them is the bird race. One of them is the feline race, right? The feline race. And the coneheads, the group called the Daru. That's how you get that obesity gene, right? The obesity gene comes from these Ganesh. Look up a Hindu god called Ganesh, who is a representation of these guys that I'm telling you about, that has these elephant trunk noses, these huge guys. Hey, I'll talk about the Andromedans in a minute. But the Andromedans is who Alice Collier is in connection with, right? So like I say, he talk about that, about the Project Blue Rock, that Earth is a DNA bank for many different species. And that's one of the reasons why that particular gray species, they call the Ebens, right, came here to get DNA from the humans so they can take, because like I said, they suffer from a radiation syndrome because it was a war that took place in Rajal on a planet, nuclear war, actually, that caused them to suffer from that particular thing. And so they want to come back into Earth's realms and collect some DNA samples to try to take back and alter their DNA samples. And that's why Dan said that he was taking samples off of J-Ro. I think he said he took over 300 samples off of J-Rod. And we secretly though, they were using those samples because at the time they had already had human cloning going on, right? Human cloning going on. So they was already cloning humans, and prior to that, they was already cloning chickens, cows, etc., right? Sheep, before they start getting more advanced on the human cloning. And then so the human that DNA that they was taking off of J-Rod, allegedly they were using these guys to make clone aliens, right? Make clones of J-Rod, right? And then in some cases even crossbreeding that DNA with back with the humans. And they excuse was they were trying to figure out of how to help J-Rod, but they didn't give a dang about helping them. They didn't give a dang about helping J-Rod. J-Rod knew they didn't give a dang about helping him, and that's why he only gave him a certain he only gave him enough of their information so that they would help keep him alive, right? Try to keep him alive. Another thing he said is Earth has been so another thing is Earth is one of the few planets. It's not many planets in your galaxy. Your galaxy alone expands 150,000 or more, maybe be more than that. That's the last time I checked. That was years ago, though. That was over 150,000 light years. Now, one light year is 6 trillion miles. So you can only imagine the distance of just your so-called galaxy alone. And then we could get into the word galaxy is actually a misnomer, because one solar system can be a galaxy when you're talking about dimensions, right? One solar system can be a galaxy. So the Orion solar system, or this is, they tell you about 3 stars on Orion's belt. There's actually 9 stars there, though, because the actual 2 stars on the outside one has, I think, 3 stars. One is a quadruple star system, and another one is a 5 star system. So it's like 9, 10 stars right there in Orion's belt, right? But a lot of planets don't have more than 3 species. They usually have a main superior species, and then like an assistant species, and maybe a pet species. And it's usually no more than 10, like the max I done seen like on a list of planets, like by between 7 and 10 species, like a food source, etc. Right? So on Earth. Earth has millions of different types of species. Like it has millions of different types of insects, thousands of different types of birds, thousands of different types of fish, right? Different types of felines, different types of, etc. We could get into it, right? So it's Earth, and then not only that, different species of different types of humans, right? And so Earth is like I said, it's like a DNA data bank due to this, and that's why a lot of extraterrestrials visit Earth. Another thing that he said about the non-interference clause. So it's galactic rules. We actually got the Galactic Constitutional tape already put out. You can go to the law school. You can go to the John Gill's Law School. You can watch the Galactic Law tape, or you can go to different extraterrestrial tape playlists in the playlist, and you can watch the tapes on the Galactic laws. Now, one of the number one galactic laws is non-interference and non-interference with free will. And let me tell you, if you break that rule, and the Anunnakis found out that they wasn't the highest guys in the galaxy when they broke that rule. They broke the non-interference rule by coming down here and so to say, speeding up your process of evolution by adding these different species during the project on Mars with inking them, right? And so they actually broke galactic law by doing that, and they actually got held accountable for that, which is some of the reasons why a lot of this information is coming out now, because one of the clauses in the I don't know the word to use, but one of the clauses in that contract is they got to come back and fix and teach the humans what they know. So no, this, like I was telling you, it wouldn't. No, Earth wouldn't be invaded by no outside race. That'd be suicide, because the higher council, who are in higher dimensions, they will come and pretty much they can wipe you out where you never existed. These beings got the power to make it where you never existed. You know what I'm saying? Where you never even came about. So, and they got, and it ain't no negotiating with these guys. These guys, I'm telling you about these higher beings. So the reptilians, none of these guys want to invade Earth directly. So that's why it's a long, dragged out process of infiltration, right? Whether it be, and they came out with the idea, these reptilians, one particular group, to interbreed with the humans and then destroy them from within, right? Or take them over from within, right? So, in order to legitimize the galactical interference, they would have to make deals with us. We would have to sign treaties or contracts with them, and when they go to Galactical High Council, if they will be we couldn't bring charges against them to say, oh, they did this or that, because we made contracts with them. That's why you really can't. That's why Enlil really gonna get away. Enlil is gonna get away partially with what he did, because he made the humans that made contracts with him, right? So that's why you got the covenant in the Bible. They call it a covenant, right? That's a contract. So all these gods who are some of these gods who some of these extraterrestrials who come and pose as God because of their advanced technology in comparison to humans, right? They got to make a contract with you. They got to get you to agree to serve them or agree to work with them. They just can't come in. That's why Ashtar Command had to meet up with Eisenhower. That's why the other Grays met up with Eisenhower, and it was a group of black extraterrestrials they don't want to tell you about, too, that we've been working, meeting up with the government, telling them to lay down their nuclear weapons, right, since 1945, right? They actually, since 1945, right, since they dropped the bomb. So I just want to make that clear, too. So it's galactical rules, it's galactical laws, it's a galactical constitution. And if you break those rules, man, it's really hard. Like, there ain't no way around getting around it. You will be held accountable. Ain't no place in the universe you can hide from these beings, because they everywhere. Ain't no place you can hide from these beings in the universe, because they everywhere, right? All right. Last thing I want to go before I play this next clip that Alistair Carter said is about taking responsibility. So we as the human race, and some of us are more than humans. We actually demigods because of the different. We actually just extraterrestrial children, right, of these being star seeds, and we actually demigods, and we ruled for a long time. The demigods, and the ones who demigods, we know who they are because they stand out and they talk on the level that we talk on, that we talking to you right now, right? But they ruled the planet until Ashtar Command stepped in with a jump in time in Alderbarian, 1952. They jumped back to the time of Yaku, and then influenced Yaku to create this superior right race, right? So we at the time right now where we got to take responsibility, and because we are the caretakers of this planet, the Nubians. And if you on hand, you got what you call it, what they saying, white skin. A lot of you are Nubians too. They just call you mulatto. If you're not really Caucasian or really white, unless you got blonde hair and blue eyes like Ashtar Command or the Frigolords, right? So if you on here, you think you white. And if you got black hair, any color of the eyes, or any color of the hair, then some of y'all could be Alderbarians, right? But for the most part, a lot of y'all are mulattoes, meaning you are Nubians. You are light-skinned Nubians. That's what a mulatto is, a light-skinned Nubian, right? So don't get it twisted. But we at this point, that we were once. It's like this: if you when your kid get old enough to get out on their own, they got to go get their own house. They got to pay their own bills. They got to take care of their own responsibilities. And so we at that point as a planet, that as humanoids, we had to come together and say, hey, well, this ain't about, because the guys who created the racism and hate were Ashtar Command with a white Brotherhood, the Alderbarians and Ashtar Command. And it stems down through the reptilians. They even got it amongst them. Well, an albino reptilian is made royalty amongst them, and it's rare. It's rare that you ever see a white snake. You can go to zoo and you might see albino anaconda or something like that, but that's rare, right? But amongst the some groups of Dragonians, when an albino one is born, he's looked at like, hey, he's a special type of guy, right? So that white supremacy thing comes down from them Dragonians, still into the Alderbarian mythology, and then it comes to Earth under the real and the true society and these different institutes of white brotherhood and white power and white supremacy, and that's we dealing with that too, right? But so that hate and the racism hate is an extraterrestrial agenda, right? To keep us from not figuring out, hey, these some guys that's trying to take advantage of us and take over our planet. So, but what I'm getting at is we at the point now where we got to take responsibility. We are adults now. We're no longer children, unless these particular beings who come in to make the call say, hey, well, they ain't developed enough yet to handle their own affairs on their own planet. And the option, if we are not available, aware enough as a whole to handle the affairs of our planet, these guys, when they got back, if we weren't ready, they were gonna put AI in charge for the next 600 years. That artificial intelligence is going to take over for the next 600 years to help guide humanity, which is going to be that's a no-go for me, right? But we at that point right now, well, we got to take responsibility as a humane race, right? To take control of our planet and take control of the natural wealth of our planet, because actually the Earth humans are some of the richest people on this side of the galaxy. We actually in the boondocks. Actually, Earth is actually on the outskirts of the Milky Way galaxy, right? And the Nomos give a story that the humans got drove from the center, because you got this huge black sun in the center of your galaxy, and then they said they drove us out to these outskirts. If you go pull up on a galactical map where Earth is on the map, you will see that Earth is on the outskirts of the Milky Way galaxy, right? And so, but what I'm saying is, it's like even in the Bible, because I saw a Bible guy talking about Jesus. Shout out to my Jesus guys, right? But even in the Bible, in Psalms 82, it talks about the Earth is out of course. That's why all the tornadoes, the floods. I don't know if you've seen that flood in Mexico. It pretty much destroyed a lot of Mexico. Some people saying it's all about design using the H project, right? But it's also leading up to that 2025 map that we showed you, or the future map that we showed you of America, how the landscaping look. Where they said that it's going to be a beach in Las Vegas, right? It's starting to make sense now. It's starting to look like that's happening with all these floods that's just popping up, especially in random places, right? But the Earth is out of course, and it's out of course because the real caretakers, the real humans, or the real demigods who left in charge have been rocked to sleep by these other extraterrestrials who can't Johnny come late and try to reset us. And so it actually mentions that right there in Psalms 82, where it says that the Earth is out of course because the gods are asleep, right? And so we at the point now where we got to take responsibility for what's going on the planet, and it's time for us to wake up as a whole, right? So let's go to that next one, right?
Had the opportunity over the years to interview, again, people who have worked at the test site at Groom Lake. One gentleman spent 12 of his 30 years in black programs at Groom Lake. When I asked him, I said, first of all, I said, do you believe in UFOs? And he looked at me with a straight face in one-on-one. He said, absolutely, positively, they do exist. I said, can you expand upon that? He said, no, I can't. About a year later, we were talking about, again, activities at Groom Lake. And I asked him, I said,
you have mentioned that there's interdimensional potential. Could you expound on that?
And then in terms of multidimensionality, that kind of thing, the framework that I'm familiar with, for example, is something called the holographic principle. It derives itself from general relativity and quantum mechanics, and that is, if you want to imagine a 3D object such as yourself casting a shadow onto a 2D surface, that's the holographic principle. So you can be projected, quasi-projected from higher dimensional space to lower dimensional. It's a scientific trope that you can actually cross, literally, as far as I understand, but there's probably guys with PhDs that we could probably argue about that.
But you have not seen any documentation that that's what's occurring?
Only a theoretical framework discussion. Yes.
Okay.
One of the things that's happening when they're talking about the interdimensional thing is some of these beings, for the most part, a lot of them are physical beings. All of them, really, for the most part, are physical beings. They just have technology that can bend what you call in reality. Your reality is based on electromagnetic frequency, light, right? So they have technology that can bend light, and they can bend this light. They can jump outside of this light because they understand magnetism. When you understand magnetism, you understand that if you go back to the old days where they had cassette tapes, when they used to record cassette tapes, they used to use magnets. They used to use magnets to record sound on cassette tapes. So magnets store energy. Magnets record, right? So so light frequency, electromagnetic frequency is recording. So you always being recorded. And where's it stored up at? It's stored up in a thing they talk about in Hinduism, and maybe in Buddhism too, about this thing called the Akashic Records. The Akashic Records is a film that's recorded from your electromagnetic. The human has his own electromagnetic force field, and your electromagnetic force field is constantly recording. The recorders is always on. They never go off. It's recorded 24 hours, 24/7, right? 24/7 is the only time frame they give us, right? If you go to Mars, they got probably like 40, like it's 400 and some 80 years or so for 1 year. So it depends on, and like I say, we can get into that too, because you're dealing with distance from the light. Earth is 93 billion miles away. So it takes about 8 minutes or so for light to get to Earth. But being that Mars is a little farther out, right? I think it's about it might be like 4 billion years or so from Earth. But time takes a light, and when you're talking about time, you're dealing with light. You're dealing with electromagnetic frequency, right? Time is emit backwards, right? So it takes a little longer for light to reach the other planets who are farther out than Earth. So like I was saying though, some of these extraterrestrial groups have the technology to bend this electromagnetic frequency, manipulate it. And with this technology, they also can move backwards and forwards on the time belt that you're in. And they can't do this in every galaxy, because not every galaxy is like your galaxy. Your galaxy, which is your solar system, right? I'm not talking for the more guys who study astronomy, and they say, "Oh, well, your galaxy, you mean the Milky Way?" Yeah, the Milky Way is your galaxy, but just your solar system is a galaxy when you're dealing with electromagnetic frequency, right? It's another Earth right here. Right here, that it's people walking around a whole nother reality here. They call it a parallel reality, right? So it's other realities within your reality. And I broke that down too on the tachyon energy tape and the Big Bang tape on how it all transpired out, right? What else I was gonna say about so they able to move back and forth in time. Some of these groups, Ashtar Command was one of them who's guilty of breaking galactic law by doing this to try to offset us. Let's go to that next one.
The United States government may have made a deal with aliens. Watch this.
The treaty stated the aliens would not interfere in our affairs and we would not interfere in theirs. We were particularly interested that they do not interfere with anything that would affect our future. We would keep their presence on Earth a secret. They would furnish us with advanced technology and would help us in our technological development. They would not make any treaty with any other Earth nation. They could abduct humans on a limited and periodic basis for the purpose of medical examination and monitoring of our development, with the stipulation that the humans would not be harmed, would be returned to their point of abduction, that the humans would have no memory of the event, and that the alien nation would furnish MJ-12 with a list of all human contacts and abductees on a regularly scheduled basis. It was agreed that each nation would receive...
That one right there was a little almost I don't want to play the whole thing because I don't like when they put the music behind it, but that was Bill Cooper, who put out Behold a Pale Horse. You know about him. We showed you that book. We got that book. She talks about some of that stuff in that book about the government being in bed with the Greys, but he was going over a little bit of the stuff about the treaties. Like I said, they got to make contracts, they got to make deals with you. So like I said, it'd be suicide to try to invade Earth. That's suicide. Like, no, I don't like to try to invade it directly and openly where everybody knows, hey, Earth is being invaded. It's not gonna happen like that. Earth, like, these guys had to be more craftier because of galactic laws, and we dealing with criminals. See, dealing with criminals don't want to be seen on camera. Criminals don't want to be seen, like, they don't want people to know what they're doing, right? So criminals ain't finna come directly and invade Earth. That's a crime. So they ain't gonna do it like that. They're gonna have to be sneaky. They gotta be under the table. They gotta get your own people to sell you out, right? That's how they do it. That's how the Luciferian energy is. They gotta use your own people to take you down, right? They use Dr. Malachi Z. York's own people to take him down. They try to use Honorable Elijah Muhammad's own people to take him down. Malcolm X. The list goes on. Anybody you can name, pretty much. I bet you they use their own people to take them down. Even Nipsey Hussle, the own 60s took him down. That's his move. It's because it's a classical move. Even if you go back, even if for my Jesus guy that was in here. Even if you go back and study the story of Jesus, they use his own people to take him down. He even says it himself. He said, I come to my own, and my own receive me not. Right? So it's like that type of thing. Right? Let's go to that next one.
I said, where are you from?
And there you have it. He's talking about, and we got that whole tape too for you. If you want to watch that whole video, we got that in a different extraterrestrial playlist too, about Valiant Thor. Right. So Valiant Thor was somebody who worked for the government. Well, allegedly, he was working alongside the government at the Pentagon for several years, during the 1950s, I think. So Valiant Thor was an extraterrestrial from Venus. And like I told you, he was part of the Alderbarian group who broke off from what was happening to them on Aldebaran. They tried to get away, but the reptilians actually followed them to Venus as well, though. But for the most part, they were, and it's a war. It was a war. It's a war. I think the war is over now, but it was a war going on from like the early 1900s, 1950s. Another war going on Venus. And that war was these reptilians trying to recapture their slaves, who are these Valiant Thor and them, right? Who were from Aldebarans. But they came here allegedly and was trying to assist the government in certain technologies and healing methods. but the government rejected it as usual. Why? Because the people who the bad Alderbarians had already infiltrated before Valiant Thor. I think before Valiant Thor got here, they was already working on the infiltration at that same time. So they was like, we don't need that. We're trying to put these people back into, and a lot of the technology that Valiant Thor we had already had in the Tarzizian Empire, we had already had a lot of this technology. Another extraterrestrial that was a part of that same group that came here, it was a dude named Ed Limskin. I think I'm saying his name right. Ed Limskin. He was the one that built the coral stone structures down in Florida. It was another guy that, and he was an Alderbarian. That guy, right? Another Alderbarian that came too, that was putting technology out, was Nicholas Tesla. Nicholas Tesla was a part of the same group with Valiant Thor, right? Okay, so what else I wanted to tell you? So you know who y'all already, if you up to speed, or if you've been with us, hey, shout out Emma for the super chat. If you've been with us, we already got tapes on Valiant Thor. We already got tapes. We got tapes on Field Trip to Venus. We got a tape called Field Trip to Venus, where we go take you to Venus and break down the races on Venus. So you want to go check that out, right? In the Galactic family of the Galactic family playlist, right? And I think I might have it in a different extraterrestrial playlist too. But I got one on Venus, and I got one on the Venerians too, breaking down more about them, right? So I wanted to make that clear for you. Let's go to the next one.
The most surprising statements that was given to me last year in 2023 was, Linda, just take this. I'm not going to prove it for you. That between here and out 55 or 100 light years, with Earth as the center, that the we being those insiders in the U.S. government, collaborating, I'm sure, with our World War II allies of England, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, and the United States, said, just know that there are at least 168 civilizations, many of them high, between here, Earth, and out 100 light years. 168. Why should humans, Homo sapiens,
say they know about, like I say, over 100. They already logged, and they got some pictures of some of them. Some of them wouldn't let them take pictures, and some of them they took pictures anyway, and they came back to cost them later. They took some pictures of some graves. It one, like I said, the marker being graves. Them guys, they like the mob. They the galactic gangsters, man. They don't play no games. So they told you don't take no pictures. You took them. They coming out they coming out blasting everybody, right? I heard they got into it with they told a military guy. They said they told him don't bring no projectile firearms inside of this meeting, because that's don't bring them, right? But they didn't tell him that they got a device that make those guns go off, make them automatic fire. You can't on a ship, on some of the grade ship, you can't even bring a projectile type weapon on their ship, because it'll automatically go off based on in reaction to their technology, right? So that was one of the reasons that they got into a big shootout with the Grays on some of that stuff. But another guy named Phil Snyder. We got his whole tapes too in the different extraterrestrial playlists, right? Phil Snyder talks about his down at Los Alamos when they were building those bases and they were using the drill trains to drill on the ground, how they came in contact with extraterrestrials, Greys who are already there. And I'm thinking that this particular species, because they were aggressive, but they might have not been the marker beings, because I don't recall the marker beings having the laser weapon and the built-in laser weapon in their hand. And And then Phil Snyder said that these guys, the 7-foot one that was the leader of the ones that they came in contact with, had this laser inside of his hand where he can wave his hand, and he actually lost some of his fingers due to that. I'm only gonna play a couple more because I'm going to have to get ready to get off in about another 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna come back later with a part 2 to this because I got so many tape videos to go over. So we're gonna go through a couple more videos and then we'll come back.
If you'll indulge me, I'd like to read 2 pages from advice from the extraterrestrials. Yes, it's true that we have been in contact with your government and heads of power. It is also true that we have been It is also true that agreements have been made and kept secret from your people. It is also true that in the past, some of your people have lost their lives or have been badly hurt to protect the secret. Our hands had no part in this. We contacted your leaders because your planet is in grave trouble. Your leaders said the vast majority of your population wasn't ready for anything like us yet. So we made time agreements with your leaders as to when your people would be made aware of our presence. Your air, your water are contaminated. Your forests, jungles, trees, and plant life are dying. There are several breaks in your food chain. You have an overwhelming amount of nuclear and biological weapons, which include nuclear and biological contamination. Your planet is overpopulated. Warning, it is almost to the point of being too late, unless your people act. There are better ways of deriving energy and food needs without causing your planet any damage. Those in power are aware of this and have the capability of putting these methods into worldwide use. Those in power view it as a military and security threat. That upset me. You mean to tell me that the people in power have the ability to save and better the planet, and they aren't doing it? Amnesty. What do you mean? Complete amnesty to those in power, governments and leaders who have been suppressing the truth, that they can't be held liable for any past wrong deeds. It is the only way these leaders can come forward with the truth. It is necessary that you do this in order to work together and survive.
Gonna come forward because they gonna be held for not galactic crimes against humanity, because, and some of them shouldn't be held because some of the stuff was really out of their hands, especially dealing with the marker beams. But the body parts, the little kids and all that degrade, that they working with and feeding these guys, kind of keep these guys fed down, and they set up Eisenhower Boulevard. It's a base because Doc told us about the base, the gray alien base in Macon, Georgia, and people were saying that the smell stank real bad. It was real stinky in Macon, Georgia, right? And so when the smell had got so bad, they had to move the whole facility to Puerto Rico, the gray facility to Puerto Rico, but it's on Eisenhower Boulevard. Why? Because Eisenhower is the one that made the deal with these grays, right? Another thing I want to say, because I got to get out of here, go get my son, and I'm gonna come back with a part 2 to this because I got probably like a whole other hour and a half to go over on this class. That somebody said something about Bob Lazar. Yeah, we got Bob Lazar's whole story too in the different extraterrestrial playlists. It might be in the Galactic Family playlist, which is like over 700, 800 tapes up in that playlist. So if you're newcomer and you go to the Galactic Family of Life playlist, it's like it's gonna take you a while. So we've been working on that playlist like 7 to 8 years. Yeah, we got stuff on Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar was one of the engineers that were doing the reverse engineering on some of the crafts at S4, which he comes out and said there were 9 different crafts, different looking crafts that they had uncovered. I think 2 or 3 of those crafts were from the Hitler dying though, right? And then some of them was from the 1947 Roswell. It's a couple more crashes like 1952. some of the UFOs were so big they couldn't even move them. They had to build a whole building around them, or a whole facility, military base around this UFO because it was so huge to move. I heard about that. One of the locations is in Utah, right? So we just wanted to bring that to you, man. We're gonna be back. Like I said, I gotta go get Hakeem, and I'm gonna come back with a part 2 to this, and we're gonna break more of it down, going more into what's happening as far as the government shutdown. The government is shut down because the government is being cleaned out of aliens. Like so there were aliens. And I can show you a video, but I don't know if they'll probably let me show that video about they got these human synthetic suits that they can put on they can put on. You ever seen in the movie Man in Black when the roach, he came down and he put on the Edgar suit and he was going around town in a human body? They was telling you then that, hey, it's extraterrestrials, bugs, other beings who can put on a human body and walk around, but they're really a bug. And also, there's extraterrestrials on microcosmic or microscopic level who can infiltrate your bloodstream and your openings, and they can utilize your body, attached to your neurocortex. Say, hey, buy Snickers, buy this, buy sugar. And if you remember in that Man in Black movie, the first thing that bug said when he got inside of the Edgar suit, he went into the house. He said, "Fix me sugar water now. Fix me sugar water." Remember that? He says, and then she says, "More, put more sugar in there, right?" And then stirred up. He drunk it, sugar water, right? So that they were telling you right then. They were giving you, like, if you go back and watch Man in Black, they're really giving you a lot of game about who these beings are. And pretty much in all the extraterrestrial movies, they give you what these beings are because, like I said, CIA, Majestic 12, they are a lot of the films in Hollywood made about aliens were given to them by Majestic 12. Certain classified documents, they give them. They doctor it up to where they take out the stuff they don't want too much. They don't give them too much. They give them a guideline, and they give them like ideas. But it really, a lot of that stuff be based off of truth, right? And so we want to just tell you that, man. Like I say, if you want to show us some love for the class, we drop the emails in the link. If you want to get the books by the Young Elder, 8 books by the Young Elder, we still got that going for the $45. Well, we'll say $40 to the Cash App, and we'll send you all 8 books in PDF form. We just dropped the Cash App in the link. Hey, we about to be back, y'all. Peace. Wadu. One love. Free Malachi York, man. Never have it been made so clear.